I upgraded all Pokémon card design and made their foil 3D version in Blender. Here's how I did it. I love card games. I've played a lot of hours and built hundreds of decks in different games. This idea came to my mind when I saw this Venusaur card for the first time a couple weeks ago. I love the illustration, but the card design overall feels really old. New cards are cool, of course, but I mean, look at this chunky boy. I don't know if you noticed, but he is even blushing. So, I accepted the mission of giving this wonderful illustration a second chance. But my boy Venusaur needs some company, so after searching for a bit, I found these two amazing illustrations of Arbok and Zapdos that were shouting, "Please let me be a full art card." With our 3 Pokémon selected, here comes the first task to complete, and the most boring one. Copying the latest layout of the Pokémon TCG cards. I plan to work in a large format since I might need to print or display an HD version of the final output, so every part of the layout is made in Illustrator to maintain the lines working as vectors. This means that when I start working in Photoshop, I can scale the layout as much as I want and it will never lose quality. To mix it up a little bit, I use the English card layout, but with the text in Japanese from the original cards. This adds a bit of challenge in the design process, but also Japanese has less text, which means more space for the image. I decided to transform our 3 chosen Pokémon into an EX card, a V card and a VMAX card. If you don't know what this means, don't worry, they basically are strong cards in the game that always have full art illustration, as far as I know at least. With my 3 layouts ready, I start working on the illustrations. The first step is finding a good quality image of the original cards. Luckily, this fantastic website exists, limitlesstcg.com. Here you can find high quality scans of any card in the game. I saved them and rescaled them using Chainer, an AI upscale software. You can check how it works in one of my previous videos, link in the description. Photoshop time. Here's the pro tip of this video. If you need to select a defined character with a strong silhouette like this one, make sure to use the subject selection tool to save some time. You will have to adjust the selection, and on the other artworks it didn't work, but it may come handy one day, you never know. For the Venusaur full art card version, I placed the Pokémon around the center of the image and looked for some leaves or grass patches with a similar style to the illustration produced for the cards nowadays. After masking it the way I wanted, I composed everything together, adding a clear sky for the upper area of the background. I also added a touch of shadows below Venusaur and a yellowish glow around him to make him stand out from the rest of the artwork. Made some color adjustment and the first card is ready to be transformed in 3D. However, I'm going to finish the other 2 designs first. The next one is Arbok, which is my favorite illustration of the 3. I think it works much better in a vertical format, like this full art card, rather than the original. So, after upscaling the original artwork, I placed it where I wanted, and since I like the vegetation behind the Arbok, I'm going to repeat the grass process again. This time I choose another image and adjusted the colors using the original green as a reference. Finishing everything off with a lovely night sky leaving the moon just above our poisonous snake. The process for Zapdos was a bit different. Since I'm going to tilt the original image a bit to center it in the card format, I have to fill in the missing parts of the wing and the tail. To do it, I make the shape in a layer of flat color, then I painted the selection with the correct color palette and softened the edge with a mask. For the background, I just arranged copies of a stormy sky image together to create the atmosphere I wanted. Adding some lighting effects behind and on top of Zapdos gave the card the final details it lacked to compete with the other 2. With our final art ready, it's time to jump into Blender for the most exciting part of the project. We are turning this into this. I modeled the shape of the card and added the HDRI I want for the foil reflections. Thanks to Mistube for teaching how to do this in his video, the link is in the description. He uses a noise texture scaled in the Z-axis to make the shapes taller, and controls the intensity with an RGB curves node. Pretty sweet! We now need to add the textures of the card. I made them procedurally, using only 2 pictures to make the whole front texture of the card. One is the final design we just made in Photoshop. The other one is just a bump map of the areas I want the card to have an emboss effect. Notice how I blurred the edges in purpose to achieve a more natural looking bump effect. Then I played a bit with the nodes. For those that came here for the tutorial part of the video, here it is. It's a simple node setup. You have your card material, the diffuse is the image we created in Photoshop, and we add a paper bump map to give it some nice texture for close render shots. We then merge this material with this reflective one, with another bump map, and we use our image as a mask. This way only the white parts of the card will have this second texture. With this we have the foil reflection effect ready, but to make it much better we can mix this material with another one with the same image as diffuse, and using our bump map in the material and as a mask. Play with the roughness and metallic value of the materials until you like it. Time to add the card back texture with the same technique for achieving the foil effect. And it's done! The wonderful thing about this procedural method is that it works fine both in Cycles and Eevee render engines. In my case, I'm going to render the scene in Eevee to save some time. The render results after a few tweaks like adding motion blur are really good in my opinion. I'm doing this in a vertical format because I wanted to work on Instagram. After seeing different camera angles for all of the card animations, I render everything in PNG format at 30 frames per second. Brought it to After Effects to edit everything together and finish the compositing with some color correction. I hope you liked the final result. I would really appreciate you leaving some interaction below if you did. YouTube has to know we are trying to grow this small and humble channel. I had a lot of fun making this project, and the best part is that by making everything 3D procedurally, I can now just make new card pictures and render them with this effect in Blender with basically no more effort. If you want to see the cards in full resolution, check them out on my website, the link is in the description. Thanks for watching, bye!